Welcome back to another video, this time an update on a review that I gave for the MONIMOTO Tracker. This is 1 year later. So first things first, what is MONIMOTO? Well, put simply, MONIMOTO is a tracking device for your motorbike, your scooter, quad bike, camper van, car. Doesn't really matter what you attach it to. It is completely portable, battery powered, and it notifies you if your vehicle moves without your fob being close to it. And the advantage of this is it links really well with an app, and it allows you to see the location of the vehicle on that application. It works for Google Android and it also works for Apple's iOS, and the apps have been developed over the last couple of years to really become very nicely stable over the course of its development. So how does it work? Well, the easiest way to describe this is basically the key, which is the circular disc that you can see next to the actual device there, is the key. That's the actual unlocking mechanism for the alarm, if you like, or the tracker. So when it detects movement, and the GPS unit, the big tall thing that you can see on the screen there, when that detects movement, because it's on the vehicle, so it's in the motorbike or in the scooter, and the key is the thing that it's going to search for. So the minute it detects movement, it's going to look for a paired key, one of the keys that it's come with, or an extra key if you've bought two keys, which you can do if you want to. Now, there basically are two possible outcomes for this. Okay, so if the key is located within 10 meters of the MONIMOTO, then it's going to basically go back to sleep. It's going to go, everything's good, my owner's here, the key is here, and I can carry on just protecting silently. But if the key is not located, that's when it will go into alarm mode, and basically what it will do then is it will phone the mobile phone number that you registered when you first set up your MONIMOTO tracker. So the benefits, well, there's quite a few benefits. Over the last year I've come to realize that actually this would have been far more complicated in my situation, where I've had a couple of bikes over the last 18 months and going potentially to another bike in the next 6 months or so. That's going to be a massive hassle if I had to have it professionally installed. So this is a DIY installation. It can be installed in like 3 minutes. It's really fast. Literally, once you've done all the setup, the moving it from bike to bike is so easy. You can literally you could put it on your bike every time that you go out on a different bike if you've got more than one bike, and then you're able to protect that bike whilst it's parked up outside a cafe or whatever it might be. Wherever you go, in a shopping centre or whatever, it's protected because it's there. So no installation costs, and there's no maintenance needed on it. You just have to replace the batteries whenever they go flat. And if I'm honest, neither of my batteries, the one in the actual unit or the key fob, are showing any signs of going flat anytime soon, a year into ownership. So that's pretty good. It comes with a 2-year warranty, pretty standard across the European Union these days, but it's reassuring that they stand by that. And I'm sure if there was an issue, I have had to contact support once, but it was purely unrelated to that. It was more down to the fact that I moved phone and I forgot to deactivate the app on my phone. I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. So it is IP65 water and dust protected. It's kind of, I would say that it is pretty hardy in the sense that it's got rubber seals around the joins and stuff like that. But honestly, you want to try and put it somewhere tucked away out of sight anyway, so it's probably going to be quite shielded on your vehicle in that point anyway. They reckon that the battery lasts about 2 years. Like I say, mine is still reporting full battery life, so I think it's used very much. It really hasn't, and it's just one of those things where because it hasn't been triggered into alarm mode that often, it hasn't had to actively track, so it hasn't used that much battery life. So obviously if it keeps getting triggered with false alarms, it's probably going to last a little bit less time. They say that the GPS and the cellular modules that are built into it are built in Switzerland. I'm not going to take it apart to work out whether it's built in China or built in Switzerland. It's been reliable. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. So it's battery powered. Like I've said earlier, you can move it between your vehicles. Really useful for that sense, because I know a lot of people, especially motorcyclists, they have more than one bike, so that's really, really helpful as you go through. One of the big things I will say is that it's not connected to the actual motorcycle battery, so you're not doing any modifications to wiring or anything like that. You don't have to splice in and try and like have it set up and all that sort of stuff. And because it's not connected to the motorcycle battery, even if you leave it on for a year and a half, it will never drain your motorcycle battery like some of the trackers do. You won't need a trickle charger in the same way that you would if you had an alarm running on your motorcycle. So when you first get it, there's a few things that you get in the box. You get the MONIMOTO device itself, so that is the tall tube-like structure that you can see on that picture. You also get the key fob, obviously, and that goes on your keys. They recommend that you don't have the key fob and your actual motorcycle key on the same key ring. You would have to carry them together, but what they say is that they recommend that if you have your keys and your key fob separately, it means if somebody steals the keys to your motorcycle, then at least you have the fob, and that means that it would alarm, whereas if they had the fob and the key, obviously it thinks it's you, so that's a bit of a problem as you go through. You get 2 batteries, so the Panasonic ones are the ones that I got in mine, so you get 2 of the CR123A batteries. They're readily available for replacements. They're lithium batteries, they last ages. And then you get 1 CR2032 battery for the key. A bit of a pain in the backside to get into the fob, if I'm honest. To replace it, it can be a bit of a pain. When I had to use it to reset the fob when I was first setting it up, it was a bit of a nightmare to prise the fob open, but to be honest, you're going to have to do it that infrequently. I don't think it really matters. And the final thing that you get is you get a micro-sized international SIM card, and I think mine is a Swiss number on my SIM card, but it makes no difference because you never phone it and you don't have to worry about charges on it or anything like that, and I'll explain that in a little bit as we go through. So let's think about the app. Well, the app allows you to configure and set up the device and manage the device. So one of the crucial things I think is really, really helpful is you get the battery monitor that shows you what the status of your battery is, and you can also receive alerts when it's getting low. So if the battery gets low, it tells you that that battery is running out. So that's really, really helpful as you go through. Like I said, it comes with a SIM card. Initially, you get about 2 months of subscription included in that SIM card, and after that, you can pay for either a year or you can pay for it monthly to keep that service activation going. And it's not expensive. It's about €3 a month, which for peace of mind is not a huge amount really. So you get with that SIM card, it allows you to get your SMS notifications if there's a movement, and also the location pings if you start live tracking as well within the app. It will send a map to your mobile phone as a text message with some coordinates on that you can look up in Google Maps, which is really useful. You can obviously within the app adjust the sensitivity, because if you do move your bike or you have to brush past your bike maybe when you go out sometimes, you don't want it going off all the time because that will drain the battery. So you can adjust that sensitivity, really, really good. You get a full event log. I'll show an example of that a little bit later on. And the event log will automatically track the device status for you. So you can see really easy. It's one of the things I love is that it like checks in every day to say, hello, I'm here, everything is well, which is really good. The support and the help that you get within the app is also quite good. There's a good sort of database of commonly asked questions now, which is really, really good. And I contacted them directly through the app when I had an issue. And my issue was that I forgot to deactivate the app on my old phone. So when I set it up on my new phone, it let me set it up. That was absolutely fine. But I got a little cloud icon next to my device. And when I questioned it, because I couldn't change any settings for the device, and they said, oh, it's because your new device is like a secondary device. It's not the primary device linked to your MONIMOTO, but it was sorted very easily via an email. They just reset after I'd proved that I purchased it, confirmed some of my details, all that sort of stuff, reset my account so that I could re-enroll my new phone as my primary device. And it's a bit like if you forget to deactivate, say, a banking app on a mobile phone before you get rid of it, then when you come to log in with a new one, it goes, oh, you can't because you've already logged in with an older one. So it's kind of the same sort of thing. It's just a case of making sure you're on top of that if you do happen to change phones. So let me show you some screenshots and talk you through these of the app, because I think a lot of these devices and a lot of these things that we buy, the app is make or break. If the app is terrible, then generally the device is pretty naff. It doesn't matter how good the hardware is. If the software is not very good, it's not very good. All right. So the MONIMOTO app, I'm pleased to say, although it was a little bit glitchy on Android to start with, towards the end, before I switched over to iOS about 2 months ago, the Android app was absolutely flawless. It worked really well. I had a Nokia Android 9 device before. Then I moved to a OnePlus 7T, which was using Oxygen OS, which is like a derivative of Android. It was absolutely fine. So let me talk you through these. So on screen 1, you've got the overview. This is what you see, and I've blanked out all the personal data that might identify my MONIMOTO. So where it says, for example, key ID, on that key fob section on number 1, obviously you would normally have an ID, but for security I've blanked that out. So you can see it tells you your battery, that it's ready, the key ID and the battery level of the key as well, and it'll tell you when it last communicated with your phone. So number 2 is the event log, and you can see there is one little bug that really drives me mad, and you can probably see that the GSM time, if you like, so this check-in time, has adjusted every single day pretty much by 1 minute. Now when I first set this up, I set it up at about, I think it was about 9:30 at night, which over the course of the year meant that I was getting my notification to say that it was running at about well, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Now it didn't go off because I have do not disturb on my phone, but it was frustrating because it was going off in the middle of the night to tell me that it was running. Not ideal. So if that happens to you, the easiest way to do that is to reconnect and change the update frequency of the device, and I'll show you on the next slide how you can do that. And if you just flick it to 2 days or 3 days and then back again, it will send an update immediately after you've done that, and that then becomes your new like anniversary time for your updates. So it's quite useful as you go through. Screen 3, you can see, is the help section. It's the FAQ, so you can see the manual, how it works, how to set up and test it. If you get stuck, you can look at troubleshooting, you can look at the SIM card questions, all those sorts of things, and you can update the firmware there and all sorts of other stuff to give itself your software updates as you go through. And screen 4 is where you go to your main settings pane. Now this is what happens and what it looks like before you click anything. Okay, so you can see there that it tells me that my SIM card is active until the 17th of March, so I'll have to top up in about a month's time. And then the connect option, you have to be physically stood close to the device. So as it happens, it's about 10 meters range, so you don't necessarily have to go outside. If your bike is parked close to your house, you can click connect and it'll work through a couple of walls or whatever, and that's absolutely fine. Now if your key and your fob was stolen at the same time, that's where you'd hit that start active tracking. Now the problem with that is it does drain the battery because it sends live location updates continuously about once every minute and keeps pinging it to your device so that you can see it on a map. Now the problem with that is it will drain the battery, so if you hit that, then the chances are it's going to actually drain the battery on the device really quick. So only do that if you actually have had your bike or your car or whatever stolen. And obviously the options to log out and delete your account, and some information at the bottom that's blanked out for privacy about the device, like the device identifier and all that sort of stuff as you go through. So once you go inside that settings tab, there are a few options as you go through. So the first thing is you can see here where we've got the option, if I click on it, to basically top up the SIM card if I want to. I've then got the option to go into my settings and go further in and delve in. So once I've connected to the device, I can then go into these different settings as I go through. So when I go into the settings of the device, number 3 here, for example, allows me to set whether it's a motorbike or a car. That makes a difference to how it treats movement. And then I can see here, I can set the device update regular interval. So I have it on 1 day, but you could go up to 40 days if you want, if you weren't going to move it that much. But I don't think there's much point in having it at 40 days because It could be 39 days after it was stolen before you knew, potentially. Although the regular update status isn't about if it's stolen, I suppose. It's more about the battery's okay and stuff like that. So if you put it on 7 days, it would check in once a week to tell you that the battery was okay. But I'd rather know that it was okay every day. Motion sensitivity, that's fairly obvious. That'll just tell you whether it's low, normal or high sensitivity, and then your phone number is the one that it's linked to give you the updates and the alerts as you go through. You can see on number 4, this is the key fobs section. So under number 2, there's the key fobs option, and this just tells us that we've got the key fob and what key fob is connected, and I can add extra keys if I want to, and so on and so forth, or delete keys if I've lost one or whatever it might be as I go through. So hopefully that makes sense. Now the SIM card does need an active connection to a network. Now when it comes from the factory, it comes with a pre-installed SIM card, and it is one of those things where it's activated depending on the model you go for. Either it's activated within Europe or it's activated worldwide. So you pay a little bit more if you want the Americas and the Far East and stuff like that activated. It's about £20 more for that extra coverage. It's very much down to a personal preference. I can't ever see me needing to track anything in the United States, certainly not my own bike. But obviously if you live in America, you're going to want to make sure you get the American version, the one that allows you to go and basically look at all the different options. The first 2 months are included in the EU free of charge, and then you can basically pay €3 a month beyond that as you go through. I actually got a deal when I got mine last year. They gave me 2 months free and then an additional 10 months. So I ended up getting, or an additional 12 months I think it was, so I ended up getting until March the following year when I bought it in the January. So it was really good value as you go through. So they might do something similar at a later date. No idea really as we go through. The idea with the default SIM card that's in there is it's not a network specific card. It will just connect to any roaming network that has the strongest signal in any country. So for example in the UK that could be O2, or it could be 3, or it could be Vodafone. Obviously across Europe there are many other providers for mobile phone networks. So if I went to France, for example, it might connect to Orange France, or it may connect to another network. It's entirely down to the strength of the signal. It will pick the best one. The app will tell you, obviously, like in that circled red bit there, it will tell you when the SIM card is active to. It's not necessarily a balance like you have £7.48 left or anything like that. It's just a time balance. So in terms of you'll have a balance or you'll have an active service until this date. So that's really, really useful. So there are no service fees. You don't pay a monthly charge in terms of, you don't have to keep a subscription going in terms of for MONIMOTO specifically. You have to pay for the SIM card, but you are free if you want to use your own SIM cards. So if you have a very, very cheap deal where you can pop in a SIM card that only costs you £1 a month. I don't know if anyone has really, but reality is that €3 a month is like £2.50, £2.75 a month in pounds. It's so cheap that I can't see anyone wanting to put their own SIM card in anyway, if I'm being brutally honest. But there we go. So we're 1 year on. Is it still worth it? Well, I would say yes. It's been really, really bulletproof. It's been really reliable. It has never failed to check in on a daily basis. I've sometimes forgot to have the fob with me because I keep the fob and the key separate, and when I ride off I only get a little bit off my drive and I get a phone call to say your bike's moving and you haven't got the fob. So it does work, which is really reassuring. So it does actually trigger an alarm and tell me that my bike's been moved without me actually being on it, even if I am inadvertently. The battery life has been really good. It's been stored outside for the whole year, all year round, in very cold conditions sometimes, inside a Honda PCX scooter, and it's still reporting very good battery life in both the fob and the actual device itself. I love the daily check-in, gives me peace of mind, and the app has definitely improved over the last few months. So I hope that's useful and helpful, and that talk through the app maybe has put some reassurances that it is actually a quality product. And after some initial setup issues, at the initial starting point last year, having reset it up over the course of the year with my new phone and a new bike and all that sort of stuff, it's been really easy to transfer now that they've improved the firmware and the app. Highly recommended. Hope it helps. Stay safe.